It's 2035, and I'm walking through Paris. The Eiffel Tower still glitters, the cafes are still charming, but something is off. The streets are eerily quiet, the crowds thinner and older. The grand old buildings and luxury brands remain, but the owners are American, Saudi, Chinese. Europe has become the world's most expensive open-air museum, a relic of when it was the center of the world. Back in 2008, the EU and US economies were nearly identical. But while the US surged ahead, Europe stalled. Today, the US economy is nearly double the size of the EU and UK combined. Europe is now a continent of stagnation, a place to visit the past, not build the future. How did a continent with the highest standard of living and best healthcare fall so far? It wasn't an accident. It was a series of self-inflicted wounds and political miscalculations. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll dissect the 6 fatal wounds that turned Europe from powerhouse to museum. For decades, Europe's prosperity was powered by the German industrial engine, family-owned Mittelstand firms and giants like Volkswagen and BASF. German exports lifted all boats, funding social models across the continent, but the engine ran on cheap Russian gas, a vulnerability everyone ignored. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the gas stopped. German industry's foundation crumbled overnight. Energy prices soared. BASF, Germany's chemical titan, began building its next megaplant in China, slashing jobs at home. This wasn't just a business move, it was a symbol of deindustrialization. Germany's green ambitions backfired. They shut down nuclear plants, only to fire up coal when the crisis hit. The result? Higher emissions, lost industry, and skyrocketing costs. As Germany's engine sputtered, the rest of Europe felt the shock. Supply chains frayed, prosperity faded. The assumption that German industry would always provide was shattered. The great industrialization of Europe had begun. Jobs and innovation exported, futures dimmed. The continent's industrial heart was being dismantled piece by piece. The prosperity and future of Europe's working class left with it. The German engine had stalled, and the European train was grinding to a halt. The lesson: when you sacrifice pragmatism for ideology, you risk everything. Europe's economic miracle was built on cheap energy and stability. Both are gone. Now, the continent faces a new reality: decline. The first fatal wound is open, and the bleeding hasn't stopped. Let's look at the next. If industry's collapse was Europe's heart attack, its demographic decline is a slow terminal cancer. Walk through small towns in Italy or Greece. Beautiful, but eerily quiet. No children, just aging faces. Italy's birth rate has plummeted to historic lows. The pension system, built on young workers, is now upside down. The best and brightest are leaving, creating a vicious cycle. Fewer young people, less innovation, more decline. Decades of prioritizing career over family have changed norms. People marry later, have fewer kids, or none at all. Europe's future is shrinking, one empty crib at a time. The second fatal wound: a continent growing old, with no one to replace it. Name the world's top tech companies: Apple, Google, Amazon, Tencent, Alibaba. Now, name 5 from Europe. It's tough, maybe Spotify or SAP, but Europe is a tech ghost town. The reason? An innovation vacuum. Europe has talent and universities, but a hostile environment for startups. Regulation is the culprit. The EU's motto: when in doubt, regulate. GDPR, the Digital Services Act, the AI Act, well-intentioned, but stifling. Startups in Silicon Valley can launch and scale fast. In Europe, they need lawyers before they can even build. The risk-averse culture means even promising companies aim small, not global. The market is fragmented by language, culture, and national rules. Scaling is hard. Take Mistral AI, a French startup that briefly shone, then got bogged down by EU regulation, and ended up partnering with Microsoft. The pattern: European innovation gets regulated to death or bought by US or Chinese giants. Europe is a research lab for others, exporting talent and ideas but capturing little value. While the US and China battle for tech supremacy, Europe writes the rulebook for a game it's not playing. The next Google or OpenAI won't come from Paris or Berlin. The innovation vacuum is an economic and sovereignty crisis. Europe, once a leader in science, is now a digital colony. The third fatal wound: a continent that can't turn ideas into power. The future is being built elsewhere. Let's move on. In finance, capital goes where it's treated best. For decades, that's meant out of Europe and into the US. Europe's capital markets are shallow, fragmented, and risk-averse. Ambitious companies list in New York, not London or Frankfurt. Look at Arm, the UK chip giant. When it went public, it chose New York over London. The money and the growth are in America. Even Europe's own savings flee. Norway's sovereign wealth fund invests nearly half its portfolio in the US, less than a third in Europe. This creates a doom loop. Risk-averse investors avoid stocks, startups starve for capital, markets stagnate, and the cycle repeats. The S&P 500 has outperformed European markets for years, widening the wealth gap. American households benefit from stock market booms. Europeans keep savings in low-yield accounts, losing ground to inflation. This isn't just about the rich. Vibrant capital markets fund innovation, create jobs, and build wealth for everyone. Europe's system is sclerotic. Its own money funds American growth. Imagine you have $100,000 to invest for 10 years, S&P 500 or DAX. Most would pick the US. The fourth fatal wound. Europe's capital is fleeing, starving its own future. The continent is financing its competition. The blood is flowing out, and the body is growing weak. Europe's financial system is broken, and the consequences are everywhere. The next wound is even deeper. Let's keep going. On to energy. Energy is the foundation of prosperity. For a century, the rule was, energy should be abundant, reliable, and cheap. But Europe added a new rule. Energy must be green, no matter the cost. Germany led the way, shutting down nuclear plants after Fukushima, even though they were safe and zero carbon. Europe banned fracking, leaving its own gas in the ground, and became dependent on Russian imports. Billions were spent on wind and solar, but renewables are intermittent. When Russian gas was cut off, the system collapsed. Electricity prices soared, triggering a cost-of-living crisis and killing industry. German steel mills can't compete with American ones paying a fraction for energy. The US, thanks to shale, enjoys cheap, abundant energy. China is building nuclear plants at record speed. Europe tried to leapfrog to a green future without a safety net, shutting down nuclear, banning gas, betting on Russian imports. The result, permanent high energy costs, lost competitiveness, and strategic vulnerability. The dream of leading the green transition became a nightmare of decline. You can't build a modern economy on sunshine and wind alone. Europe ignored energy reality and paid the price. The fifth fatal wound, energy suicide. The consequences are permanent. The continent is locked into decline. Let's look at the final wound. Security. For 70 years, Europe lived in a peaceful garden, protected by the US military. The American security guarantee let Europe spend on welfare, not defense, the Peace Dividend. Most European nations let their militaries shrink, spending far below NATO targets. The US footed the bill, while Europe enjoyed prosperity and moral high ground. Then in 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. The fantasy shattered. Suddenly, Europe had to pay for both butter and guns, and couldn't afford both. Rebuilding defense means hundreds of billions in new spending, year after year. The money has to come from somewhere: pensions, healthcare, or higher taxes on a stagnating economy. Europe faces a crossroads: radical overhaul and unity, or managed decline. The path it's on leads to dependency on American security, Chinese tech, Middle Eastern energy. The end of the peace dividend exposes all Europe's other wounds at once. The bill has come due, and Europe may be bankrupt. The final devastating wound, the loss of security and sovereignty. The museum doors are closing. Let's wrap up. What's the lesson from Europe's decline? Success isn't permanent. Wealth can be squandered by bad decisions and complacency. Europe's fall was slow, 1,000 small cuts, not a sudden collapse. The warning: no one is entitled to prosperity. Ignoring decline doesn't stop it. Europe's wounds are deep and self-inflicted, a case study for any nation, including the US. Crisis can spark change, but the headwinds are immense. While Europe stumbled, the US did many things right. Want to know how the US pulled ahead? Watch our next video on the American economic cheat code. Subscribe if you want to survive the next recession. The story isn't over, but the museum is a warning to us all. I'll see you in the next one.